Alright, welcome back everyone to the seasonal wrap-up show. It is time to dive into the spring 2025 season. A lot of titles to go through for this one. Looks like about almost 60 titles, although some of these I think are not going to end this season. It is currently May 24th when I am recording this, which you may realize means there's still a whole month left in the season. But as usual with the series, I'm going to cover all of these series up here that ended early. These OVAs and movies, or just TV shows that ended up being a bit shorter. We got Cocoon, the new My Hero OVA, Moonrise, the KonoSuba OVA. A Love to Captivating, which is a yaoi series, the Lycoris short series, Guilty Gear TV series, One Piece in Love, which is another OVA, the Rose of Versailles movie, the HameFura movie, Bye Bye Earth Season 2, Miru Paths to My Future, which I don't even know if it's going to have subs out by the time we get to this, and a Lupin the Third OVA. But we'll talk more in depth about each of these when we get to those. We'll get at least 2 different episodes out of these early ending series. But let's start with Cocoon. This is about, I believe it's about nurses during World War II in Japan. And I believe the director is a former Ghibli staff member. I'm not exactly sure how, but I've heard good things about this one. So let's dive in.
Ooh, wow. It's a hell of a way to start the spring season. Okay. Just watched Cocoon, which is a 1-hour TV special, not necessarily about nurses, but sort of like support civilians during World War II. Most of them being like teenage girls, or like preteen girls almost, I think. The second half is a lot. It's funny. Back when I was in college, I took a lot of courses on like young adult literature and like children's literature, just that whole range of literature. And one of the things that stuck with me was one of my teachers taught me that with a lot of fiction of like novels, there's, or even just like media in general, there's usually something like right smack dab in the middle of the story where something like changes, and then like it's sort of a point of no return, if you would. Obviously this is just sort of like basic story structuring. Like, you want your midpoint to have like a bit of a climax, like a midpoint climax, but it's more so like, especially with like adventure and fantasy stuff, there's like a turn where something happens that forces the characters to exit out the other side. Boy, does this show follow that formula. Or this special, I guess it's but anyway. Yeah, the first half was pretty, just not necessarily light, but I guess in comparison to the second half, it is light. Just very standard, sort of like, we're support staff running around during the end of World War II, just trying to survive the U.S. Bombing raids on Japan. I saw a lot of people, or not a lot of people, I saw some people on Twitter being fucking Twitter-brained about shit, and being like, this is talking about how this is like pro, like, Japan during World War II propaganda, and it's like, well, clearly you didn't watch the second half of the film. Or the... I'm just gonna... whatever. it's in this weird middle ground. It's like, it's not a film, it's not a show, it's not an OVA, it's just sort of like a TV special. I don't know why I'm harping on this. Anyway, it is definitely not that. They go real hard on horrors of war, a la Grave of the Fireflies in a lot of ways, on how just everything is fucked. Japanese army sucks. U.S. army sucks because, well, they do. They did. They killed a lot of civilians during World War II. Let's not whitewash this on either side. And it's just, the first half is just sort of this, like, sort of almost bonding experience, sort of, where you get to know the characters. We set up all the different relationships amongst the characters and the sort of teenage emotions that they're experiencing. We have San, this very soft-spoken, very shy, not forward at all kind of girl who is just struggling to make her voice heard and make her opinion heard and stuff. Contrasted with Mayu, who's sort of this very upfront, very straightforward, take charge kind of girl, and they get sort of paired together in this like opposites attract kind of friendship that they have, and also the bonds of being in war together. And we have like all the different side characters along with it. The rest of the side characters aren't particularly stand out, but they do enough to bolster the main friend dynamic between San and Mayu. So like this first half is like all character building for the most part. Not that it drops off in the second half. I should say it drops in the second half, where just character development turns into character corruption of sorts for certain characters, Mayu in particular, whereas San sort of has her, it's very almost too structured in a way, if I'm admitting it right, because it's very clear how they set it up. They do the like the three, the, what do you call it, the rule of three for San, where it's like for the first time that she doesn't speak up about something, Mayu jumps in to cover for her, and that helps them hide from the Allied bomb raids. But she's still like kind of upset that she wasn't able to voice it herself. Second time, she doesn't voice her opinion at all, and that causes a bunch of them to die very horrifically. And then the third time, it prolongs certain characters' lives before they die horribly later. Enough to get the emotional resolution to San's character arc of standing up for her own opinion and deciding that she wants to live instead of just being told what she should do, which goes along with this sort of the silkworm cocoon metaphor, breaking out of your cocoon and taking charge of your life instead of just waiting there to die like a silkworm pupa being boiled for its silk. Again, they definitely are not shy about what the metaphor is, but you know me, I love that shit. I love when they beat you over the head with the metaphor. And my God, this second half is brutal. It is definitely, so I will say, I didn't check all of the staff, but it seems more so that the animators were ex-Ghibli, or more so ex-Studio Ponok staff, which Studio Ponok was an offshoot of Ghibli from like a decade ago, I think. They did Mary and the Witch's Flower, which I still haven't seen yet, and I do need to get around to seeing. So yes, this definitely looks like a made for TV Ghibli film. Which sounds bad, but it's not necessarily bad. It's certainly, like, if you're going to compare it to a Ghibli film, yes, it doesn't have the sauce. Some of the animation could have used a once over or twice over. The bounciness of it and the Ghibli-ness of it doesn't quite match some of the horrific things that are happening. But it's not hugely discontent. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not. It doesn't hugely detract from the experience. But also the director, apparently, I already forgot what her name is. But she actually worked with Naoko Yamada a lot, apparently. She worked on Colors Within and Garden of Remembrance and Heike Monogatari. And for like the first like 35-ish minutes or something like that, I was like, you worked with Naoko Yamada a lot, so like you've definitely got the tight directing down, but where's the oomph? Where's the artistic flourish? And boy, did I get my answer. So you know how Naoko Yamada likes flower imagery. Oh, this is so fucking twisted. Imagine children being gunned down by enemy fire, but instead of blood, it is bursts of flower petals. Just to sort of mask. You could say either it's just there for symbolism, or you could say it's like San sort of repressing what she's actually seeing because she has not fully taken control of her life yet, and so she's not fully able to grasp the utter horror of what she is looking at. Until the very end, when, like, spoiler if you're still this far into the video, and if this is your first time joining me for the seasonal wrap-up show, I do go into spoilers for this show. I'm giving you a lot of tail end to this spoiler warning, so you can turn it off now. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so Mayu ends up dying at the very end of this special. Unfortunately, she is shot by an American soldier, and this is like the first time where we actually see like a full-on bullet wound, blood pouring out everywhere. And we have this incredibly very sad but also very like tying everything together of San finally giving Mayu the birthday present that she couldn't give her before because she made her a bookmark, but someone else made her a bookmark, so she felt like embarrassed to give her like a less good looking one. But then Mayu ends up dying under this sort of rock cliff on the beach, and you can sort of tell immediately that it's different from all the firing that happened before. Like, most of the fire before was like artillery or aerial bombardment or plane machine guns and stuff. The one that kills Mayu, you can kind of tell right away is like, oh, this just came from like a standard rifle kind of thing. At first I thought it was like a sniper round, but so then what happens is San comes out from under this rock overhang, and you see like the soldier standing on top of the overhang, and she just sort of has this stare down with him, and eventually he puts down his gun, and you can see that it is this child, probably like 18, 19 at the oldest, just shipped off to war, who very clearly does not want to kill a teenage girl who is unarmed. And that part really actually got me to like tear up a little bit. Like it got me choked up a little. Just this sort of like this confrontation with the enemy of like, no, don't kill the civilian. Don't do it. You don't have to do it. You do not have to participate in this. You do not have to participate in the ugliest part of war. So yeah, that was such an incredibly sobering way to end the climax of this film. Also, by the way, there is suggested sexual assault in this. It's not implied that like it is gone through with, but it is implied that that a threat of that happens. And it is like very tactfully handled, I will say, but still very like they are not being coy about what happens. But that's like earlier in the story. So second half, very brutal. And just sort of also, I think Kensuke Ushio might be the best working composer in anime right now. That's not anywhere close to being a hot take. I don't think I would get any backlash from anyone for saying that. But like, man, it's even when this man is on autopilot and like there's nothing in particular about these tracks that make me go, ooh, this is like some of his best work. But man, his minimalist style works so well for the intense drama and sadness of this one. It is a thing. So, yeah, that's Cocoon. That was a hell of a start to the season. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so the director is Yukimitsu Ina. That's who the director is. Just want to make sure to get that on film because she is really good, and I want to make sure that that she gets shouted out. Anyway, Cocoon is finished. Man, that was intense. Anyway, we're gonna scroll pretty high up on the list here. We're gonna go to the number 2 spot and give that a decent 8. I might even move that up to the number 1 spot if I feel like it. I might watch it again, to be honest. Man, that was good. Okay, now for some complete tonal whiplash. The new My Hero OVA, A Piece of Cake. I think this one has Mina as like one of the main characters in it. Our little alien queen. Let's do some comic relief.
Apparently that was only 3 minutes long. I have nothing to say. It's just everyone looks at Midoriya's like quirk notebook, and then Bakugo shouts a lot. And then like the last 30-ish seconds are a lead into the Your Next movie. There's nothing to talk about here. Unless you're like a diehard extreme My Hero fan, which I am. There's no point in watching this, but even then, the effort to torrent this kind of outweighs what's worth here. It's basically nothing.
Okay, well, that's finished. I'm gonna put that at the very bottom of the list. I'm gonna give that like a light 5. It's not bad. It's just kind of nothing really. It's very obviously just a lead into the movie. I don't even think I'm gonna put it on my media thread on Twitter or anything. Yeah. Anyway, on to the next show, Moonrise. This is a Netflix series. The only thing I know about it is that Hiromu Arakawa did the character designs for it. I've heard no one else talk about it other than that. I don't think I've even seen any clips from it. So, not expecting much, but let's give it a go anyway.
Well, I can definitely say the character designs were the best part of what I watched. Not a high bar, but whatever. I got through the opening action scene of Moonrise. Did not compel me to want to watch the rest of it at all. It just looked like a generic sci-fi show. Apparently this was by Wit Studio, which in some sense tracks because it's very, very high-octane action. Not necessarily incredible action. It's kind of weightless, but it's not terrible. Except for the compositing, which fucking sucks shit. Really bad compositing in this opening action scene. No attempt to make the 2D traditional animation characters look like they fit into this CG background at all. Apparently the director is the guy who took over Attack on Titan after Tetsuro Araki backed off into the chief director role. So, it's not incompetent, but it's just not, it doesn't have the sauce. It just doesn't. Also, apparently, there is an original creator credit to Tou Ubukata, who, if you watched my my entry on Bye Bye Earth, he's a fucking crazy person. But he's not credited for writing. He's credited as the original creator. So I guess he came up with the concept, which basically means for this show it's going to be all confusion and no sauce. Because Bye Bye Earth is a fucking insane show. But it's so fucking weird about how insane it is that it's just enrapturing. There's nothing weird about what I saw in the opening of this show. It just looked like a generic sci-fi series. So, I got nothing. It looks generic as hell.
Okay, Moonrise is the first drop of the season. Up next is KonoSuba OVA 3. This is 2 episodes, I believe, and I've heard that the second of the 2 is, incredible. So I'm looking forward to that. I love me some KonoSuba. Let's go.
Alright, those were some good KonoSuba OVAs. Unfortunately, once again, I don't really have a whole lot to say about them. They're just more KonoSuba side stories. They're good. The first one with the typhoon was very predictable in its comedy, but just the jokes that it picked were surefire ones, just constantly leaning into Megumi's ego and just pulling the rug out from under her to just undercut her at every step was very fun. And just the constant edging of all the guys in the town hoping to get a look at naked women. Classic Konosuba stuff. Again, super predictable, but it's playing the hits. The second one was much more in the sense of where the hell is all of this going with these pseudo not quite imposter characters, but the Konosuba party, but not a bunch of shitheads. Yeah, I really don't have a lot to say. Other than, I guess, the first episode was actually probably the first time where I was looking at KonoSuba and I was like, this actually looks kinda iffy visually. Like the compositing of the water and the waves and stuff in the second half of the first OVA looked not great. So, yeah, that's probably the first time that KonoSuba has looked anything less than really good. The slow decline of the anime industry comes for us all. Unfortunate. Yeah, it's more KonoSuba. It's good. The bit of Aqua fucking getting skipped across the lake like a rock, like a skipping stone, was incredibly fucking funny. Just some good gags all around. I really don't have a whole lot to say. It's more KonoSuba.
Alright, KonoSuba OVA 3 is complete. Where did I say I wanted to put this one? Let's put it right in here in the number 14 spot, and we're giving you a light 7. It's just more fun little KonoSuba OVAs. Not a whole lot to like add to the KonoSuba formula. It's just more KonoSuba. Alright, up next is A Love Too Captivating. This is, I believe, a yaoi OVA. Hopefully it's a little bit more animated than the one that I watched tried to watch last season. I know nothing else about it, so let's go for it.
Well, it is definitely more animated than the one from last season. Not exactly a high bar, and it doesn't exactly go that much past the bar. But it was more animated. And yet I don't think I even made it as far into this one as I did the last one. I think I made it like 5 minutes into this, or 6 minutes or so. And it's only 13 minutes long. I did not finish A Love Too Captivating. This is like doujin dialogue in this. It's like incredibly amateurish writing. Like, you know how anime writing is already very on the nose most of the time? This is like extremely on the nose with everything. Like, why does he keep coming after me even though I keep pushing him away over and over again? It's so bad. The writing is so bad. It's not good. And like, it still doesn't look all that good. The character designs fucking suck. They're so overdone they're so like, it's like these characters are supposed to be hot, and it's like, no, it just looks like the character designs kind of suck. It's over designed, and compositing's not great. Color design is really not good. It's like the cool tones are like clashing with the more like neutral kind of tones, or just not neutral, but like the more like just the more bass kind of tone. I don't know what I'm saying. I am not super into color theory, but I know it don't look good. The color design is all wrong, and I will say though, if I thought that it looked good, I might have found this hot, maybe. Even as like a straight guy, I would have been like, hey, I see the vision, but it's just amateurish the way that this is put together. If this keeps happening with these, I might just have to cut these one-off yaoi OVAs out of the seasonal wrap up, because like if this is what the standard is, what's the point, man? This ain't good.
Alright, A Love Too Captivating coming off the list. Alright, up next, Lycoris Recoil, Friends Are Thieves of Time. This is a series of web shorts, I believe, that are just spin-offs of Lycoreco. I love Lycoreco, so I am very excited to just see what I assume are like probably some slice of life web shorts. Let's do it.
Alright, that was a fun little series of anime shorts. Just finished up Lycoris Recoil, Friends Are Thieves of Time. Definitely the best spin-off short thing that I've watched so far this season of the three. But once again, I really don't have a whole lot to say about it other than it's a bunch of slice of life Lycoreco stories. Very short and very to the point, but also very, very high quality stuff. Like, I've mentioned this before on the show, but when you get like anime shorts, you don't really expect something super high quality a lot of the time. It's usually just very bare bones. I think the industry's starting to get better about this, but like the My Hero OVA that was barely an OVA is a good example of this. It's not like bad, but it is not a high effort project. This is a high effort project. There is a lot of really great animation, a lot of really great like layouts and cinematography going on. The color work is just as good as the main TV series. I want to rewatch Lycoreco at some point. That was such a fun fucking show. And this captures like the sort of fun-loving, wacky side of it to a certain extent. Like the fucking cocktail episode 3 was just so fun and dumb and stupid, where it's like just a bunch of like it's a poop joke followed by a butt joke. And it's so like well animated and so clean and crisp that it just is hilarious in its own right at how much detail is put into it. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. God, this is just a series of me completely failing at the seasonal wrap-up show and trying to explain what is good about this other than being like, yeah, it's more of the other thing. The ghost episode is probably my favorite one because it's so... There's the FNAF of it all was so very apparent, but also their take on it was very funny and again very, very well animated. I cannot stress enough how good looking this project is for as short and as compact as it is. There's not any like hugely explosive action scene to it like there was in the main TV series, because this isn't about the action. This is about the everyday life side stories of it all. Really, the only thing I'm disappointed in is that this isn't like a sequel, I guess. 'Cause I don't know what's going on with that project. Because at the end of Lycoreco, like shortly after that, they teased that there was going to be a new anime. And supposedly this is the new anime, but also I checked my anime list and they still have a separate entry for like Shinraku anime, so like new anime series for it. That is not this. So maybe there is another project in the works that Shingo Adachi is actually going to be attached to, because he didn't really work on this one. I think it was just a bunch of the episode directors from the TV series. Or maybe he did work on this and I just didn't see him through all the other director credits. I would definitely love to see him back on it. Not that his presence felt missing from this in any degree, but it was just... I want more Lycoreco. That's the long and short of it. If this was if this was to tide me over until more Lycoris comes, good job. You really nailed it. This was very fun. I love Chisato and Takina. Yeah, it's fun.
Alright, the Lycoris shorts are complete. We're gonna go... Where did I decide I wanted to put this? I think I'm gonna put you right in there, I think. With a strong 7. Nothing especially, like, noteworthy, but it is really damn fun. Alright. Next up is Guilty Gear Strive Dual Riders. Did not hear anyone say anything good about this show. We'll see how it goes. Maybe Bridget will show up in the first episode. I like her design. Anyway, let's go.
Oof, magoof, my guy. That is not good. I got about 7 minutes into this new Guilty Gear anime where the vast majority of it was just exposition of stuff that you needed to know before starting the show. It's like a solid 3 to 4 minutes of exposition at the start, which I assume is to just explain previous Guilty Gear games. And when they're being like artsy and stuff about it, like when the art style is like not the main art style, for example, there's a lot of it that's like sort of replicating a stained glass look. It's not bad. It's not particularly good, but it's not bad. But then the juxtaposition of that against Sanzigen's CG animation, oof. And it's not just that it's CG stuff, because there is CG animation that I like, mostly by, what do you call it, Studio Orange. And I also liked Promare. That looked good. But, boy, this is not good. The color design is terrible. The animations are super robotic, and it reminded me a lot of Hologra, like Hololive Graffiti, if you've seen those shorts. Like, that's a little too mean to say about this, but it has, like, the feel of that. Like, the way things are shot and the way the characters move, it reminds me of that. And also the editing. The editing is so jarring a lot of the time. It's very quick editing a lot of the time, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for shots to breathe. Not that that would be good either, because looking at these models moving for too long would also be bad. It's all bad. It's all bad, actually. The dialogue sucks, too. It's very, like, introducing you to characters from a video game vibe to it. This show is like a perfect example of why I excluded anime adapted from video games from my seasonal wrap-up show for so long. Because they're bad. Most of them are bad. Most of them are not Cyberpunk Edge Runners. In fact, the vast majority of them are not. It's pretty much that and Pokemon. Oh my god, that was bad.
Alright, Guilty Gear coming off the list. Next is One Piece in Love, which I think is like I think they're like YouTube shorts about people who like One Piece, I think? Or something like that. I'm assuming they're YouTube shorts based on the way that the VLC files looked in my folder. So let's figure out what this is.
What an odd premise for a series of YouTube shorts. Yeah, so this is like a rom-com about people who, like high schoolers who just so happen to have the names of One Piece characters. but, like, not all of them act like the One Piece characters they're like. The Luffy character is completely different from Luffy, but the Nami character is pretty close to Nami. The Usopp character is just sort of there. I don't understand the vision for this one. And apparently this is adapted from a manga. It's probably like a 4-koma manga. I didn't check to see, because that feels like it would fit the style of this pretty well. But it's not funny, and it's certainly not good looking. This is what I expect from TV shorts. Or I guess, in this case, web shorts. Or actually, in this case, YouTube shorts. Because, like, they're actually on the official One Piece YouTube channel. I don't know if I mentioned that already or not. But, and they're, like, fully subtitled on the One Piece YouTube channel, which is wild. But anyway, these are bad. It's just bad. Not having a good time here.
Okay, One Piece in Love is not good. Coming off the list. I did a little bit of rearranging of the back half of this. So next we're going to do Miru, Paths to My Future. Which I think, based on live chart, was like an Amazon Prime Japan exclusive or something. The whole series still isn't subtitled yet. So I guess if I like it, I'll just wait for the rest of the subtitles to come out. But I have a feeling I'm not going to, based on the MAL score being sub 6.0. Not that I should judge not judge stuff by MAL scores, but let's see what we got here.
You know what's more jarring than bad CG? Multiple different art styles of bad CG in the same shot. Like, I don't understand the design philosophy behind this one. Like, not only do the character models and the sets have different art styles, but different character models have different art styles. Like, at least in this episode, the main guy has this sort of almost cel-shaded kind of look to him in a way, but then like this other younger girl character shows up and she's got a completely different art style than him. What the fuck? Like, I noticed in the data entry for this show, like, there's a bunch of different studios attached to it. So, like, maybe it's just supposed to be this weird collab kind of thing. In any case, it's fucking ugly as hell. Like, sometimes I watched way more of it than I should have, by which I mean several minutes more than I should have. 'Cause, like, sometimes I just get curious about, like, what the fuck is going on. But then I remember, like, oh, I actually don't care, because this looks like shit. Very funny watching an astronaut just get completely fucking wiped out by space debris. Although it's not, like, graphic to any extent. So, yeah. This is really, really bad.
Alright, Miru, Paths to My Future. Off the list. Next is the HameFura movie. My next life as a villainess, all routes lead to doom. The movie came out a while ago, actually, I think, in Japan, and it's just now hitting Crunchyroll. Imagine that Crunchyroll beat the fan subs to it. That's the world that we live in now, I guess, for movies, which is wild to me. I'm old. Anyway, second season of HameFura was definitely a downgrade from the first season. So hopefully the movie is a little bit better.
Alright, that was a little bit better than I was expecting. Though, to be honest, I really wasn't expecting a whole lot because the second season was just kind of a disappointment, but I finished the HameFura movie, My Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom, which is a premise that this movie remembered approximately halfway through its runtime. Yeah, it's not like the first half of this movie is bad, but it definitely doesn't have a lot of the stuff that made HameFura so fun until approximately, like, 40-something minutes into this 90-minute movie. Which, credit where it's due, 90-minute movie does not stretch itself out. It is definitely not... Actually, yeah, that's something I should bring up right away. It does not pad itself with anything that isn't necessary in this... to this story. Not that, like, there are things that are necessary or unnecessary. What I'm trying to say is, like, this is a very tight story that all of the little pieces, let me rephrase that, all of the little pieces that, like, are kind of fluff or just little side story stuff or just little tiny details actually end up getting used more thoroughly as the film goes on. Whether it's P.O., this little bird that Katarina finds early in the film, or the carriage, the insanely fast carriage driver, or the foreign word, what was Ramunyu, whatever, the word that Akil tells Katarina is like their equivalent of saying, like, I'm head over heels for you. That comes back in the end. So there's a lot of like call and response kind of stuff in this. They're not necessarily call and response, but more just like this movie is littered with Chekhov's guns, I should say, in a very fun way. So I was very pleasant. It was very fun to see all of these things come back in the third act of this film. So that was fun. And going back to the first half-ish, I guess, it was, again, not necessarily bad. In fact, it was very pleasant to watch, but it just didn't have the HameFura of it all until the reveal of how Katarina knows Akil, this foreign prince from a vaguely Middle Eastern coded country. Not vaguely, absolutely Middle Eastern coded, right down to the fucking music. So yeah, so this is becoming the sort of a when I wrote some anime articles for when I did like anime reviews for like this random like entertainment website, I did a review of Space Patrol Luluco, where I called it the Trigger Cinematic Universe, and for some reason this reminded me of that a little bit, in that we're starting to get into more not multiverse stuff, but it is revealed that other Otome games that Katarina played in her past life are connected to the world of the main game that she gets dropped into. And so that just opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for this franchise in the future. Not that there's going to be a lot of possibilities for this franchise in the future, because I don't think they've announced any new projects for this. I don't think this movie did very well, which is unfortunate because it's still a decent movie. But I think the spark for HameFura has mostly dried up in terms of enough money to make more of this franchise, which is a bit of a letdown, because I would certainly love to see a bunch of different otome games get connected to this one in different ways. I would certainly love to see that. Although, if I recall correctly, the end of Season 2 previewed a lot more boys than showed up in this movie. And also, Mal has this listed as other instead of a sequel. I'm not sure why, because this is very clearly a sequel, I think. Or maybe it's a side story. Maybe this isn't even from the novels. Who knows? I certainly didn't put in the effort to find out that information. But yes. First half, I keep repeating myself because I keep interrupting my own thoughts. First half is missing the isekai villainous elements for a while until Katarina remembers where all this came from, and then it just all comes back in full force. We've got the Katarina Council in her head. We've got her a little bit of the like pretending to be the villainous trope, although not necessarily pretending to be the villainous, but like just drawing on her villainous roots, I guess, in a very funny, like, one-liner kind of way. Other than that, fairly standard anime fantasy movie with a little bit of action at the end. The action was not particularly good. It was very confusing to look at times because it was just a lot of explosions happening in a very fast carriage chase. I don't think this, if I recall, there really wasn't a lot of action in general for this franchise, so it's not like I was expecting some big bombastic action scene. But I will say that this was at least a very slight uptick in quality to justify it being a movie instead of like more TV stuff. This is definitely higher. The character designs are cleaner and more crisp looking. They have a little bit more sheen to them. Some of the character animation is a little bit better. Also, it's letterboxed for some reason. Like, a lot of times, I say for some reason, like, that means something. Like, a lot of times when you have anime that start as TV series and then they get a movie, they don't bother letterboxing it. They just keep it as the 16:9 aspect ratio. Probably so that they, I don't know, just so it can stay consistent with what the staff has normally worked with. But this one, they actually, like, did the full letterboxing for it. It is, like, a very widescreen experience. And I think for the most part, they adjusted to the new framing pretty well. There were some shots where I was like, did they forget that they're working with a new aspect ratio? But on the whole, everything looked pretty solid for the aspect ratio change. And overall, everything looks good. It's not, again, this is never, HameFura was not an amazing looking series to begin with. It was always like just on the better edge of competent, with the editing and directing doing a lot of the carrying a lot of the effort for that. And that's the case here too. This is a very tightly edited film, it's a very competently put together film. I always remember from Trixie's series on the Asterisk War Sucks, when she covered the Chivalry of a Failed Knight as like a comparison to Asterisk War. She brought that up and that was a studio by Silverlink, which is the same studio that did HameFura, and she mentioned in that video that Silverlink has always been like the little studio that could. And that's just a really solid like a really great descriptor of what Silverlink is as a studio. They have never been a standout studio. Does not matter what they've made. They've never really come out and been like, we're making this big bombastic thing. They've always just been sort of a, hey, we're here kind of studio, but in a sense of like, they still have a little bit of ambition driving the stuff that they make, mostly because a lot of their earlier work was produced and directed by Shin Onuma, who is an apprentice of Akiyuki Shinbo when he worked at Shaft. Trying to come up with some other Silverlink examples, but my personal favorite Silverlink show was Baka and Test, which was another Shin Onuma project. I doubt it will be my favorite if I go back and rewatch it, but that holds a special place in my heart for just the weird quirks of its visual comedy. And this movie is just sort of a good example of Silverlink being a competent studio that can't fully break out into doing incredible stuff, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I keep saying it's not bad as if that's like a selling point, as if I didn't make a whole fucking video about how it's not bad isn't good enough. I need to change up my vocabulary on how to talk about stuff, because this is a good film. It is bad. I would say this is better than season 2, especially again in terms of the animation. Like there's like a circus dance scene in this movie where I was just sort of kind of taken aback by the character animation, where I was like, wow, this is really nice. It's like not blowing me away. It's not super flashy or anything, but it's like very fluid and it's moving in a way that's very interesting to look at. So I guess that's a good summary of this. And also, much like the TV series, the artwork, the background art is still very solid. Like, HameFura has always had really solid background art. So I gotta give it to it there. And yeah, it's a good film. I love the way everything just sort of pulled together at the end. And Katarina actually got to do something like really kind of fun in an action romp kind of way. Yeah, this was a fun movie. I really don't have much more to say about the specifics because it's so short, but it is like a nice short. It doesn't feel like there's anything missing. I will give it that much. It feels like it's just a nice little movie-sized meal of HameFura. Still not quite as good as season 1. Although season 1 I think wasn't season 1 pre-COVID? Or it was like right smack dab in the middle of COVID or something? Or at like the start of COVID? I don't quite remember. So it's been a hot fucking minute since I've seen season 1 of HameFura. So hopefully it still holds up. But I remember that being like where like the meatiest parts of it were. Those first couple arcs. But yeah, this was... If you were disappointed with season 2, I think this will at least rope you back in to say that you're still on board for this franchise, even if it's not at season 1 heights. This was fun.
Alright, the HameFura movie is complete. We're gonna put you in the number 18 spot for now with a strong 6, and that's a pretty strong 6. Might end up being a light 7 depending on how I feel later. But for now, it's fine. Alright, and now up next is The Rose of Versailles. This is a Netflix movie by MAPPA, if I recall. I've only seen the first 3 episodes of the original TV series, so depending on how I feel about the beginning of this film, because I've heard that this one condenses a lot of stuff, so if this is just trying to condense down everything, I might just go ahead and say I'm dropping it. But if I do think it has promise, I might just put it on hold and then finish the original series real quick and then come back to this. But you're about to find out which one I do. Let's go.
Well, that's certainly a good primer for what I'll get to see when I finish the TV series. I got about 17, 18 minutes into the Rose of Versailles movie, which is essentially a SparkNotes version of the Rose of Versailles, but with musical segments in it. I'm not opposed to the musical segments, actually. I don't think they're great. The first one was just an OP, where I was like, okay, this is the OP. They do that sometimes with movies. And the second time I was like, oh, they're just adding in, like, musical segments to do montages and stuff. The second one wasn't particularly good. The third one, though, the third one with the dance, I thought actually was pretty decent in terms of how the tone of the song meshes with, like, the emotion being displayed. This sort of forbidden debauchery of sorts. Debauchery by the standards of 18th century France, I guess. But they are speeding through this movie, speeding through this story so fucking fast that it is hard to care about anything. Like, on the one hand, like, they do get some, there are some interesting improvements on in theory, interesting improvements on the original TV series, where this film goes, like, all in on, like, grandeur and splendor and the massiveness of the parties and parades that they throw for these nobles and stuff, which from the 3 episodes of the TV series I didn't really see all that much of. But on the other hand, they also montage over a fuck ton of, like, what noble life in Versailles is like. If you want, like, an actual, like, historical accounting of this, Behind the Bastards did a whole series on the Palace of Versailles and what it was like to have all of these nobles just forced to live in close proximity of each other forever, and the insane hierarchy that they come up with. Like, or you could just watch episode 3 of the original series and see where they come from with that. It's like, they completely gloss over the king's mistress and Antoinette's feud with her, and how, like, there's this whole thing in Versailles where it's like, you cannot initiate conversation with someone who is of higher rank than you. And that causes this massive drama with Antoinette, and I forgot what her name is. And it plays out really interestingly, and from what I've seen. I actually haven't seen it concluded in the TV series yet. I don't know how it's resolved. I just know Oscar is involved somehow. Also, they just cut Oscar's the first episode of the series out entirely. Like, Oscar is just there, and it's like, oh, she dresses up as a man and assumes the role of a man, but she's a woman. It is so much more complex and so much more interesting in the first episode of the TV series. Just, if you take anything away from me talking about this movie, it is go watch the original series from 1979, I believe. It's on Retro Crush, so if you're fine with watching with ads, do that. Or if you have Or if you want to pay for Retro Crush, go do that. Or just rip it from somewhere. I'm telling you where you can stream it because I want to support Retro Crush, because we should support streaming services that cover anime that have been lost to time in terms of legal availability. But what really got me for this movie was the scene where the king is going to execute Andre because the horse that he gave Antoinette ran out of control. And there's this whole thing of like, it was an accident, everyone saw what happened. And then like we have Oscar come forward and be like, it was an accident, I will offer my life for my servant. And then we have Von Fersen come forward and be like, I also saw that was an accident. I was like, cool. What was the accident? Show us the thing that caused this massive plot point where one of the characters is about to get executed. Where Andre isn't even a main character in this movie anymore. He is absolutely a main character in the TV series, not a main character at all in the movie. So it's like, A, why does this matter so much to Oscar? And B, what happened? Show us what happened that caused this. Also, the animation is like weirdly inconsistent. Like, it goes all in on detail, which is cool, and it has some really impressive shots sometimes, like the dance sequences, but also it's very clear that not all of it is like put together properly. There's a lot of bad compositing, a lot of iffy CG stuff. I'm not going to say the animation is outright bad, but the flashiness is not completely covering up a lot of the seams. Let's put it that way. Also, here's the thing I'll get hammered for. Whenever people talk about this movie, they're like, yeah, but Miyuki Sawashiro as Oscar. I'm like, yeah, in theory, Miyuki Sawashiro as Oscar sounds like an incredible pick. But A, we're almost 20 minutes into the movie and she hasn't really gotten anything cool to say because they cut out so much good Oscar stuff. So B, the stuff that she does say doesn't sound very interesting. She's not getting a chance to really belt out the Miyuki Sawashiro of it all. If you're unfamiliar with Miyuki Sawashiro, I know her best as Kanbaru from Monogatari, which is definitely a very different role from Oscar. So yeah, if this was like a film series and it actually like took its time to do stuff, because there's no other film lined up from what I see. There's no other mail entry saying like, hey, this is part 1, here's going to be part 2 later, or part 3 later, or so on. It seems like, again, I haven't finished the movie, but this is a nearly 2-hour movie that I got 20 minutes into, and it's like, it seems like they're going for a completely contained retelling of a 10-volume manga, also known as a 40-episode TV series. I'm sure there was some filler in the TV series, but nope. With the pacing that they're doing, doesn't matter if it slows down later. They've already completely botched the intros, so I just don't care about anyone.
Okay, Rose of Versailles movie off the list. Up next is Bye Bye Earth Season 2, Ubukata, being a fucking crazy person with his weirdo fantasy music themed setting. I vaguely remember what happened at the end of last season. A lot of stuff just kind of went to shit. So I might rewatch the last episode of Season 1. But also, it is currently May 25th when I am filming this, so there is still 2 more episodes of Season 2 to come out. So I'm going to take a short break from the seasonal wrap-up show and watch the actual Rose of Versailles in the meantime, and then come back to Bye Bye Earth Season 2, which you are about to hear my thoughts on right now.
Not gonna lie, I think it was a mistake to do this one as a split core series, because my motivation to finish it is just not there. I got through 3 episodes of Bye Bye Earth Season 2. I don't know why I was excited to get to this one. Maybe just because the only thing I remember about the first season is that it was like fucking insane with its world building. But like the world building's kinda done, it seems like. And so now it's just the character drama left and the fucking weird fantasy shit and the direction that the weird fantasy shit's going. And you know what? The weird fantasy shit is entertaining solely because it is wild and unpredictable. But also I don't know what's happening half the time because it's so fucking confusing how this is written. And it's definitely very fast-paced to the point where it's hard to keep up with stuff sometimes. If you did finish Bye Bye Earth, I dropped it at the point where they kill King Rawhide and then Belle's sword breaks. And I think it was that point where I was like Belle's sword breaking is like a earth-shattering event for this series, and when I realized that I just didn't really care all that much, I was like, oh, yeah, I should probably drop this series. Because Adonis has gone full Shadow the Hedgehog after the events of last season. And I just don't care, I guess. I don't care about the ship of him and Belle at this point. I don't care about most of the side characters in this. Animation still fluctuates between surprisingly okay and Jesus Christ. What the fuck? Like, the monster that King Rawhide turns into is this fucking CG mess that's so bad that I was just laughing at it most of the time. And something with Belle's design is like, they give her too much of a forehead sometimes, or it looks like her eyes are drawn like a little too low on her face or something, and it just doesn't look right. Yeah, I don't know what I expected, really. I feel this is why it was a mistake to do this in split core for me, because it was like I had to stop watching Bye Bye Earth and then wait 6 months actually, and then wait 6 months and then watch the second half. I could have gone back and rewatched the first half, but Jesus Christ, why would I? So I think if they had just done this all in one 2-core series, I don't know if I would have finished it then, because I might have dropped it earlier than that actually. But this was also a bad option of letting me dwell on the first season and then forget the first season and then come back and realize, oh, I don't really care that much all about any of these characters. What a shame.
Okay, Bye Bye Earth Season 2, unfortunately, coming off the list. And I said I was going to end with the new Lupin OVA, but this is actually going to come out after some of the other spring season stuff ends. So we're just going to save that for later on in this series. Just going to put it at the very end here, just so I Remember that. And if it doesn't end by the end, or if it's not subtitled by the end of June, we'll just save it for the summer season. So next video is going to be jumping into the spring season proper. Cannot wait.